Well, it looks like we're getting ready to begin, so let's prep ourselves, folks. Another best of 7, the second one of the day, and we are ready to get underway with the opening game on Dry Arabia between MarineLorD and Wam.
On the left side is going to be MarineLorD opening up the set with a Mongol selection in blue. To the right, you're going to have the one and only Wam with the 0-1 at the end of his name, with the red French opening up with the second scout straight away.
Yeah, I mean, how else would you know that he's the first one, right? Like, what if there's another Wam? You wouldn't. That would get confusing. So, just solidifies himself as the #1 Wam in the world. The question is whether he can become the #1 Age of Empires 4 player in the world. And he definitely has one of the contestants, shall we say, for that first place spot overall all time right now. MarineLorD, definitely no pushover. I honestly, like, going into this year, I straight away said MarineLorD is like top 3 easily. I figured, especially if animation canceling didn't get addressed too quickly, MarineLorD was actually going to be the scariest player in AoE 4. Now, after the removal of animation canceling, he has to innovate. He has to be a little bit different. He has to show us where he's still strong in different areas. And considering, like we said, both these players not dropping a single game through the entire qualifier so far, it's looking like we are going to have a clash of kings here.
Indeed, someone is going to lose that streak out there, but as you said, MarineLorD are basically one of the most renowned Age of Empires 4 players right now. Very dominant in multiple tournaments, very, very consistent as well when it comes to his gameplay, and he's the favorite of this set, but Wam has been slowly creeping up those tournament rankings, and he's currently sitting at 10, I think, in the tournament rankings, as we have a Barracks coming out for MarineLorD. This was scouted by Wam, so he's going to be prepared for this one, but this is where this could be very dangerous for French. That spearman rush from the Mongols, accompanied with towers, is really difficult to counter because the French just want to go fast feudal into the knights. The moment they have to start reacting to spears in Dark Age, things could get problematic.
And that's exactly why Wam puts this many people in the wood line. He's already extracting the required quantity for probably an outpost and a racks drop. The intent being that you could easily drop an outpost near your gold vein here and protect both your wood and gold lines from the outpost rush, and then you just spam spearmen. Like, it sounds uncomfortable because you're like, oh, but I'm French. I really want to play the French Knights. But I've seen plenty of French players comfortably sit here and do this, understanding that if you're just offsetting complete aggression for the Mongol player in this matchup, it just means that your economy is getting fatter. You're dragging out Dark Age, you're dragging out Feudal. All the while, you're building villages slowly but surely quicker. Because right now, for example, every villager for the French player only takes 18 seconds, and you just accrue a lead because of that. Despite the fact that the MarineLorD has the Mongols with this Uvu generating passive stone, it does eventually cruise you ahead in conjunction with all those small technological benefits like free melee upgrades and discount costs on things such as researchers, eco-research by 30%. This all adds up as the game goes on, and is why I actually feel quite comfortable about Wam's chances of taking this game if he's able to buffer the initial aggression of MarineLorD.
Speaking of which, he's coming out with the spears from a barracks. So, from MarineLorD's perspective, it's already an accomplishment that he forced the French player to open up with a barracks. Not something that they really want to do, especially because ultimately their composition against the Mongols will be knights and archers. So the barracks being forced out from the French player is definitely not ideal for Wam. And the bigger problem here is that MarineLorD is able to pump out those spearmen in just double portions, which means that he's saving up 60 food and 20 wood for each spearman that he has added. And that is a tremendous amount of advantage compared to Wam, who has to invest 60 food and 20 wood into every single spear out there. But the villager is just getting caught off guard. What is this for MarineLorD?
No. What? He got baited by the spears. Villager's gonna have to back off. I don't even know if you can bring him back out to construct after this. I mean, the count is even on the spear count. And you can just see he runs past like, nope, don't want to deal with this right now. Get out of here, Villy. We'll finally turn around and start poking at MarineLorD's troops. MarineLorD does need to be a little bit careful. Scouts can easily chase down this Villy. It feels like he's going to be dancing back and forth. He does activate the maneuver arrow very early, and that means the Scouts drag him back again. And it's just a wasted arrow. You can try and move up now, but it's very risky with one villager to try and construct an outpost to full, considering it only has 14 health left.
Indeed, and losing that villager with a half-constructed tower would be an absolute disaster, as once again the scouts are just trying to poke on that villager. Nice micro so far by MarineLorD, but this is perfect for Wam. He doesn't have to invest into more spears at this point. He is just able to repel this attack with whatever he has started with.
And look at the problem. When you retreat, the formation drags the villager to the back. And you see nice micro by MarineLorD, even better by Wam. He drags back the injured spearman, gets that trade, and all of a sudden, MarineLorD has to keep running for the high hills. He'll turn around and stab one down. That evens it up. But in the meantime, how much damage has been done to your remaining spears? At the moment, more damage is going into the Mongol line than there is going into the French. Oh, and that split. That's not good. Wow. I can't believe this. Like, on a micro level, MarineLorD is just fluffing left, right, and center. Forced errors coming out caused by Wam, and it means that Wam is going to take the edge in the middle skirmish. The Spearman wrapping around from the south, but is the damage already done? This spear count is starting to move heavily in favor of Wam.
He's got 4 kills to 1 losses, and he's going to take down a couple more spears over here. And make no mistake, MarineLorD is an absolute micro god, so for Wam being able to micro this so well against him is just an absolutely beautiful way of playing this Dark Age.
Yeah, and Wam, actually, he ends up evening it up for MarineLorD. I feel like this is a little bit of a misplay. He had a full health Spearman that he didn't drag into the main combat. He chased after the calm of him. This has delayed the outpost timing, however. In the meantime, he is scaring away the fully healed villager as he brought in a second one to try and fix this problem. But it looks like MarineLorD might finally get it down. Wam can replenish the spears, of course. He is on his home front. But all of a sudden, MarineLorD has, for it feels like the first time in the last few bouts, has a lead on this spear count and might be able to use it.
MarineLorD now has to commit to this one because his opponent is going into Feudal Age, and MarineLorD is still pretty far away from there. So now the question becomes whether Wam can actually get to an archer range and start popping out archers so he has something to deal with those spears with. But once again, the villager is left a little exposed, and the tower is getting denied over and over and again.
Wow, this is the problem. I feel like MarineLorD, it's just a sunken investment at this stage. If you continue this way, I feel like you're going to cruise towards the first L of the series, not the first W. And the scouts, just look how he's min-maxed them. So little health left on them, but they've been standing the whole while, and they've been frustrating to deal with, not just for the Khan, but also for these villagers. Despite that, though, finally, MarineLorD will be able to get this outpost down, but at what cost?
Yeah, the cost is too great over here, and remember that the moment the French get the School of Cavalry up, and if they just have a tiny bit of gold, they can start popping out some knights, and that's gonna be very painful to deal with, knights charging into your gold miners, your food villagers out there. And there's a backup gold mine down south for Wam. I like this move to just move to the south. Yep. He's realizing that he doesn't need to defend that gold mine necessarily. The lumberjacks are a bigger question, but for now, he's holding that position, and he might even be able to yoink the villager.
Yeah, I was waiting to see if this was going to happen. And as you said, moving on to the villager instead will force the garrison just in time before they can get their spears down and stab. Another spearman will be sacrificed, but all the while, like Wam, he's prepping himself, right? He's already been sitting up here. He's dropping the archery range as we speak. MarineLorD is, of course, teching up himself, and because he has the Uvu, he will be able to keep up the archer production. The problem, however, is he has to run them all the way across the map. Meanwhile, Wam has that home field advantage. One thing that I think Wam needs to look towards in the next 2 to 3 minutes is getting rid of this outpost, though. Otherwise, Yam movement speed starts to come in the equation, and all of a sudden, it's very easy for MarineLorD to snowball from there with the Mongols.
100%. There's an archer range out now for Wam, though, and that is going to swing the battle in his favor, at least temporarily. He's going to lose that mining camp, which also gives some resources to MarineLorD as an added effect. But once the first couple of archers come in here, those spearmen won't be able to stop Wam's forces. Wam, I'm curious to see if he's going to start adding some knights here, because he's going to have the resources for it. And as we discussed, even just one knight could be immensely helpful, especially if you think about the possibility of intercepting reinforcements for MarineLorD, because MarineLorD might be bringing in the archers soon.
And this is one frustrating detail about dealing with high-level Mongol players. So you notice that whole while that mining camp was never denied, he never hit the delete to get rid of it. The problem is that when you're up against good Mongol players, they'll instantly throw one torch or one Khan arrow at the structure. The moment they do that, it sets a marker on it so that if you do delete the structure, they get the raise bonus of 25-25. It's really frustrating to deal with. It's another detail that it's subtle, but it makes the Khan even more absurd, even in the early game. A lot of people focus on how broken this unit is as you get to Castle and beyond. But just that detail in the early game, just running around, firing an arrow at each of these individual structures, denies you the ability to remove what is now a risky building that will give resources to your opponent's economy.
Yeah, that's a great point. Just the Khan's ability to sort of damage that building and then basically prevent your opponent from deleting it, or, well, if he deletes it, you would get the resources anyways. It's just a tremendous amount of advantage over here. It looks like we're going to have a professional scouts build here from Wam. He's realizing that he might be pinned within his own base, so he might need to ferry in some carcasses. He's sending one knight over to MarineLord's side. This knight is going to have to deliver quite a punch, though, because Wam is still somewhat cornered within his own base.
Yeah, and he's getting a sassy node. He almost lost one of those villagers. The final shot isn't going to come out just in time. Wam will move across with the archers to protect his gold line. But like we were saying, like that whole idea, if you look at the mining camp for Wam, it's taken free damage. He can't ever deny this now. If he deletes it, straight away it's resources for MarineLorD. It's just really frustrating. It's such a small detail, but when you actually like look at it under a microscope, you realize how much it escalates the early game and really kind of starves out a lot of choices that you would have against other civs when that kind of frustration comes in.
tower is attempted up north here by MarineLorD, but this is gonna be an absolute failure.
What?
The archer is coming in, and at this point, MarineLorD is gonna be happy if he can even save that villager, which isn't even sure at this point.
He will get it out. The outpost is close enough to protect him. The scouts, you don't want to sacrifice them because, as you mentioned, he went pro scouts. They have an additional value. But it actually just buffers your opponent away, secures this game, and will be allowed to drag that back, all the while also now protecting your wood line, meaning you're not going to be budgeting anytime soon. And that's really important, considering that you want to play into archers as part of your comp. You still need spearmen occasionally as well. Like, you're going to have a lot of demand in the French economy for wood. So it's critical that you do not get denied on that front anytime soon.
Professional scouts now ferrying in the first couple of carcasses, as you do have the archers moving through, and this is why that one knight here for Vam is so impactful. It is able to deny those reinforcements, and unless MarineLorD starts adding some more spears, he's not going to be able to escort those archers all across the map. He's going to have to pull his spearmen back to fight that one knight off. There is a tower attempt on the far left as well by MarineLorD, so he wants to pressure that other gold mine. As you said, still, Vam needs to get rid of one of those towers out there to secure a gold mine for himself, or he needs a preemptive tower on his other gold mine.
Yeah, because this is the frustrating detail. That knight cycling doesn't really do anything because of the Yam movement speed. You saw it there, right? He goes in with the lance. Yeah, got him. But you can't even chase him down because he moves at 1.44 movement speed and you're at 1.62. That takes way too long to gap close on. And it's such a big power spike of the Mongols. And it's ridiculous, in my opinion, to this day, that Yam hasn't been altered so that you only get it in the outpost range. The fact that he's able to run from his base to this outpost and more or less maintain that movement speed at all times is crazy good.
The tower is being snuck up on Vam over here. He doesn't see it. He has no idea about that coming up, and that is going to expand the Yam network all the way out there. A couple more knights are running across, though, and you're starting to get the feel that Vam might have the chance to start getting some raids going. He's grabbing the chivalry as we speak. He's got some archers back at home to defend, and he's able to ferry in one patch of deer. The other one is going to be denied by that tower, though, so that tower is not only harassing or potentially establishing the harassment of this gold mine, it's also going to be able to cut off the access to another patch of huntables.
But MarineLorD's greed has just given away what he's doing. Look at the site. If you check to Wam's side, he actually now spots out this outpost. He's going to get the bad news that one's already down, but he will at least deny the full encirclement because of MarineLorD's more greedy positioning that one. He should have known as well because he knows his opponent has an outpost where the berry bushes were. He'll finally back off and drop an outpost a little bit out of range, but now Wam is tipped off. This isn't an ambush attack anymore. And while that's happening, ambushes are occurring in the center as Wam was sniping out one or two of these archers, but once again, you see the problem. This Yam movement speed is so ridiculous. After you blow your charge and he reacts, you're never catching up to him.
And as I said, the Yam network is a problem. The bigger problem, though, for for Vam, is that MarineLorD is aging up to Castle Age. He's almost up with the Step Redoubt, and that is going to open up a whole new arsenal available to him. Most notably Lancers, because even though the French have their Feudal Age Royal Knights, the Castle Age Lancers for the Mongols would work very effectively here. Luckily for Vam, there is no stable right now for MarineLorD, so he can only go men-at-arms, crossbows, or potentially go for fast mangonels with those infantry units.
I think you just go man-at-arms to build mangonels, right? Like, it feels like a really good game for that. You force Wam into a heavy infantry composition. He's got occasional knights here and there, but he really is reliant on his spears and his archers to keep him alive. And he might struggle to stay alive for much longer. You see he's dropping Iraqs. He's doubling down now that he's stuck in feudal. He knows he's going to need ample reinforcements to defend against quality, so he can't be out-quantitied as well.
He is going to be able to ferry in the deer potentially, although with a couple of spearmen being nearby and the Yam network, plus of course the scouts being slow when you ferry in the deer, it's not going to work out. And that's one scout going down, second one gets taken down. Vam looking away for a second, losing two scouts out there.
And look at the wrap of the north. MarineLorD is now moving in. He sees the villages. They're exposed on the outside here. That's going to be a heavy pick, and it's all free. There's no punishment for MarineLorD doing this. And because of the Yam movement speed, he will move away before you can even punish him with your own archers. What a hit.
Oh, and it's just piling up on top of Vam's head at this point, because Vam is just stuck in Feudal Age right now. He has to start adding farms, whereas for MarineLorD, he's pinning his opponent inside his base, which gives him the leverage to just move out to other resources. Take the boars, take the hunts with the gurs. So really, it's difficult for Vam now to just catch up in terms of economy, because his opponent is going to have a much more effective economy now that it's completely untouched.
Yeah, and MLord, like, if you look, it says he has 13 people on gold. Okay, add 50% to that number. It's a step readout, right? So he's already ahead of you economy-wise to begin with. But then when you check the eco count difference, Wam is actually trailing by 5 villages to the Mongol player. as the French. You should be a few villages ahead at this point. He's had no value out of these knights. They haven't been able to cycle in. They haven't been able to snipe out any villages. The only thing they tried to do is snipe out reinforcements, and that felt like a big fat fail. For this big of an investment, I think he's maybe killed 2, possibly 3 of the archers. That is simply not good enough, and it feels like Wam, although it might take a few more minutes, you have to question, like, where's his comeback? What is the way up in this game? You're spending a lot of resources to try and switch over to farms now. You're not able to really hoard enough to get up to castle anytime soon. And at this rate, if this is the pace you're setting, by the time you arrive in castle, MarineLorD is going to have a standing army equal to your size, but vastly ahead of you because they'll be teched up in castle compared to your feudal age units.
Precisely. And MarineLorD is still trying to just set up that pressure on that other gold mine over here. He's aware that taking away the gold from a French player is like half the victory, as he's now moving in with the spearmen archers once again, trying to pressure the lumberjacks. Men-at-arms are here to soak up the arrow fire now, and it looks like he's just going to dive in underneath that tower.
Yeah, because he wants to get around the back. And the walling that's going on from Wam, I mean, it's counterintuitive, but they're already coming at you from the other side. They might even snipe you out before you complete it. They'll see the one Billy there. And Wam, nothing is going his way. He can't even get any breathing room whatsoever. And you can see back across where the scouts are starting to pick up these carcasses, the range on these outposts slowly annihilating them. They will finally get out and away with carcasses for a change, but it just feels like it's not enough. I mean, if we look at the income per minute, you can see MarineLorD is ahead in every category. Sure, Stone is a given. He gets it passively, but everything else being ahead of France so convincingly this stage is chief concerns for me. And I feel like there's nothing that Wam is doing that's kind of answering those concerns. He's just trying to survive, but there's no play to win. But maybe if he gets away with this, there's a way back in. The problem he has right now is MarineLorD is sitting outside his base with a standing army. And if he ever sees this tech up, he's going to punish him for it.
Oh, he's changing the guild hall to Royal Institute. I was just about to ask that at this point, the guild hall isn't going to do much for you. You need some sort of immediate punch, and that could be the Royal Bloodlines. We've seen that being a very powerful upgrade. The guild hall needs time to be impactful. It's something that you need to wait with to pull over the resources. And in such a grim situation, the Royal Institute might be your saving grace, because being able to access an otherwise Imperial Age upgrade, the Royal Bloodlines, to your knights could be immensely helpful. And you see he's adding multiple stables. And if MarineLorD doesn't have a ton of spears, this could actually work out well, because most of his army is actually archers and some men-at-arms. So Royal Knights here with Royal Bloodlines could actually work out quite effectively, but he's going for Cantled Settles immediately instead of Bloodlines.
Because it's more cost effective. He doesn't have enough knights to just make a switch into Bloodlines. Right now, gold is kind of limiting for him. So if he actually invested in Bloodlines, he wouldn't be able to be churning out knights from double stable. That's his problem. And right now, with the Ram and the Mangonel complete for MarineLorD, you can see he's pushing in, forcing him off the wood, moving to the back of the base where these stables have been established. He might lose them before he even gets any units out of them. And that could be a big issue. Moving in, arrows being fired upon the villagers, butchered en masse, and too slow to move them away. Wham is sinking fast. Knights trying to wrap around the back. Archers try and block them off from reaching the Mangonel. The Knights will move in on top of the Mangonel, trying to bring it down. The staggered formation, the second shot will not come out against the Archers, but the count is still in favor of MarineLorD. Knights have to back away. Wham trying to survive for the moment, but he is not gathering with so much of his economy, and it feels like he is just stunting to a full stop in the matter of moments here.
He just doesn't have the mass, and MarineLorD realized what's going on. He saw the Royal Institute. He knows exactly that with the army composition that he has to move in right now, or otherwise he's gonna be in trouble. And he's doing just that. He knows exactly that he needs to finish this game in 2 minutes, or he's gonna be in trouble because of the unit composition.
Look at the south. Look what's happening in the gold line. He snuck in just 4 military units, and he butchered them. That's everything. Wham doesn't have gold anymore. He can't produce units, and he can't stay in the game. That is enough to convince him it is done. MarineLorD will take Dry Arabia to open this series. Game number 2, MarineLorD versus Wham here on Altai with a mirror matchup of England on England. And Wham will be starting in the south in the red. And MarineLorD, seemingly fittingly, being the Frenchman playing as England, will be playing in the blue in the north.
Both players opening up with their scout running towards the middle, encountering each other. MarineLorD adding a second scout though, and that's going to give him a bit of an extra. Starting to gather a sheep over here. The sheep race obviously is going to be relevant to a certain extent here with the English, but it's not so important as it is on other maps like Arabia, because you have your hunt very close to your town center, you have the berries rather safe as well, and of course, English farming eco is nothing to be ashamed of either, so the importance of those sheep is way lower than it is for an open map scenario. So for MarineLorD, that extra investment for that extra scout really has to pay off, and so far it didn't. That scout didn't find a single sheep so far.
No, and one important thing I'm looking at straight away is that pinned in detail I was talking about. Notice MarineLorD is pinned in. Naturally. right? He's got this small retreat point between the wood and the mountain line, but overall, like this feels very oppressive. It's very easy to get boxed in because a lot of your critical resources to the front of your base, your gold is here, your stone is here, berry bushes are here. You can even easily from the side reach in and block out one of the wood lines and the deer lines at the same time. Then compare on the other side. Look at what Wam has. Right, he's got one side of his base that can be assailed, another one, like, there's 3 or 4 entry points into his area, but they're not just entry points, they're also fallback points. He can push his economy, his military back in these directions, and MarineLorD doesn't have the same flex. So I think it's very important, MLorD will understand seeing this generation, that he is the one kind of setting the tempo. He needs to be going towards Wam first before he risks getting boxed in entirely.
The two players have very, very similar maps, in fact, because they are fairly well defendable. You can actually start volleying yourself off, at least from certain directions, to limit the amount of surface that your opponent is able to attack. But both of these players have their gold up front, and while obviously we're going to see a heavy focus on the longbow department, the access to gold is still going to be quite relevant because obviously that's going to determine whether or not you can access and research certain blacksmith upgrades. So being cut off from gold could have serious implications here in like mid-late feudal age.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing to think about gold in this situation is like if you get your outpost network down, you get like 3 outposts, for example, around MarineLorD, you then just chip away at the gold quickly, right? You just get as much gold as possible when you go for a castle age play. That's what I'm kind of looking towards, is if someone can actually pin the other person in with outposts, they don't even need to rush to finish the game. They can genuinely then just say, I'm going to go on the gold because you can't. Because in both cases, as you mentioned, their gold is exposed. Like, none of them have gold options that are close to their base and safe. If you look on the south, you can see Wam, he has these ones far out after that initial gold, which are risky. And then when you look at MarineLorD's side, outside that one at the front of his base, they're all further back, far out, beyond the safety of these wood lines, these natural defenses we were talking about before.
Also, all coming up right now for MarineLorD, only building it with 2 villagers. On the other side, you will have 3 on it for Wam. Now MarineLorD dispatches 2 more to build it, so he's gonna have a total of 4 rushing it up.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if that wasn't a tip-off. I guess he just has a feeling of like he's got the required amount of resources elsewhere. Now he can allocate more. This is usually kind of a feeling thing. The opening of England, I think, is the best example of any civ that is being kind of like min-max to the extent that you see in StarCraft, right? Because the opening is so carved in stone and there's not really much flex to it, you get very good at understanding, like, okay, I know now I have enough surplus food or whatever to keep me curbed on the villager production, whatever. I can push more villagers across. It's actually very interesting to watch because there's other civs that are always converting the way they function in the first 5 minutes. So there isn't like this pristine Bible you could open up of your timings and how many villagers you have on X, Y, and Z in the first 5 minutes. But England don't function that way at all. They're very much kind of one route is the route for the first 5.
Both players opening up with a mill over here, and both of them are using their scout to push the deer closer to the mill and then take it down. Slight difference in efficiency if you don't push those in, but obviously, especially in the mirror, you want to maximize your efficiency as much as possible. Notably, neither of these players had these mills placed close to the berries. It would have been a possibility to drop those close to the berries and push in the deer towards those, just like we're seeing it right now.
The good news, at least, is it doesn't hurt you too much long term because you'll just convert these into farmlands, right? So having 2 mills doesn't actually like crucify your economy at this stage in the game and can benefit you later on. So I guess that's maybe their thought process. Also, if you think about it, dropping the mills at the berry bushes are more exposed. So especially from MarineLorD's perspective, he'd drop it near these hills where longbows could wrap on the north. And same for Wam on the south. Like, this is an area at the back where longbows could sneak in and reach you. While going in towards where the deer is located, that puts you closer to the TC, closer to choke points where you can actually be flanked and attacked.
Vam is doing a very clever thing here. He's using that tiny little stealth forest over there to hide his army. But I think MarineLorD has spotted them with the scout because the scout can see into stealth forest. Now the longbows are moving up, and one thing that MarineLorD doesn't have out there is a huge amount of longbows. He wasn't really consistently producing those, and it looks like he's going to have to abandon his gold mine, at least for the time being. I wonder if a forward villager is going to be pulled here by Vam to drop a tower to establish a nice staging ground for an assault.
I would love to see it. Like, he already has longbow advantage, and if he just keeps pushing that and then backs it up with an outpost drop, I think it gives him a strong arm position to deny MarineLorD. Then Wam actually gets options. We talked about how the first 5 minutes are very kind of fixed and allocated for England. After that, especially in a mirror matchup, the door's open. You have choices all of a sudden. Wham could easily say, now I'm going to start slowly accruing towards Castle Age because I understand that you can't do the same, and you're full in on feudal because I've locked you out of your gold.
Longbows right now denying the gold mine of MarineLorD. MarineLorD does not have enough gold for the blacksmith upgrades, and that's where things could get interesting, because if this status quo is maintained, Vam could have the advantage of being able to get one of the blacksmith upgrades, and suddenly his army becomes much better than his opponent's army. Of course, it's a little more difficult to reinforce this army over here, but also, the Council Hall being on the front allows Vam to just get a couple of shots out on those archers that spawn newly. One of the drawbacks of having your production buildings on the front is that you will basically have your newly spawned units being hit immediately by the opponent's forces, and Vam is doing that quite well. MarineLorD can heal these up, of course, but it doesn't start well that you're just losing your newly, or at least losing a ton of HP on your newly built longbowman right at the beginning.
I'm glad you highlighted that detail around the gold, because I was going to bring that up as well, because it means that even if you do push out hard with feudal, you won't necessarily be able to ram rush. And the other important detail is because he understands that because it's on the front of his base, and that, to that point you're mentioning, that he might get sniped out as he spawns new units, it forces him to get campfires. And it means that if you look at his gold now, he has 9 gold. He has no tech options. Wham is going to cruise towards a blacksmith very comfortably. In fact, if you look at his base, it's being built right now. And it means that you have a very strong staging point from which you can starve MarineLorD out of this game in the blink of an eye. And MarineLorD won't be able to sneak out gold because if you look, Wham has actually situated a scout at the back of the base to keep an eyeball on this in case he tries to riskily move out and secure gold far away from his base. I say that, Scout's going to go.
Speaking of that Scout, yep, the Scout is going to get taken down. But in exchange, MarineLorD is going to pull all the longbows up north, and Vam knows that. And Vam is going to use that window to get a tower up here. So not only will he have the advantage on the blacksmith upgrades, he's going in with the attack upgrade as we speak. He's also going to have the network of castles bonus expanded all the way out here. And suddenly, this becomes very concerning for MarineLorD because his source of longbows could easily be denied by Wham. Like, once Wham gets 3 or 4 more longbows here with the upgrades, they can instantly pick off the longbows that spawn. Not just damage them, but straight up kill them.
And cool little detail here from MLord with the scout on top of the hill. Originally, he checked on the gold line. He wanted to see if Wham was playing towards, like, heavy gold, if he was going for any, like, castle up. He sees 2 villages here, which tells him there are going to be techs, but there's no, like, in terms of blacksmith, but there isn't going to be a rush towards castle. So he understands that MarineLorD can't, like, he can't just full invest in longbows and get a decisive victory. Wham is going to be fighting him here. And with that network of castles now in effect, it gets a little bit scary, because the other detail you have to remember is this network of castles gets triggered by buildings. That's why they're all juiced up right now. So if he doesn't kill this mining camp, it's actually to MarineLorD's detriment. Honestly, I'd say it's worth deleting this right now. I think it's an underrated thing to do against England because they will just get juiced up because of it.
I wonder if the council actually counts as being in the radius of that network of castles bonus, because it's like right over there.
Wait, maybe I'm wrong about that, actually. I'm going to address myself as an idiot there because they've lost the buff. No, okay, it's just it's the scout around the
outside
back.
The range.
Yeah, no, it's the scout around the back. He sneaks in. That's why it was. I thought I'd learned something new. Turns out I'm just a muppet. But nice wall coming out from MarineLorD, denying that sneak in. That sneak in wouldn't have been great for Wham regardless because he wouldn't be able to move under here without being sniped by the TC. But yeah, this scout is kind of being detrimental because it just keeps juicing up these longbow because MarineLorD wants to know what's coming.
MarineLorD is adding horsemen behind this one, and this is not something that Wham is aware of. There is not a single spearman that's being added, and this could be risky for Wham. And MarineLorD is also adding a blacksmith. You talked about that gold mine at the back. Now MarineLorD is able to jump on this, and I feel like the plan is slowly falling apart here for Wham because he's got a beautiful forward position, but he isn't able to use that at all. And MarineLorD is given a tremendous amount of time to gather the gold he needs and build up a force of horsemen that acts as a perfect buffer.
Yep, and here they come. And Wham doesn't have that secondary outpost. I was waiting to see if he dropped one in the hill here. It means that he's not even well postured. Instead, he's going to be chased onto. Tries to retreat away, but Horseman going to stick on top, and that means the longbows get in range. And those longbows outnumber Wham. Wham is definitely going to lose this battle. The attack speed buff is at least not there for MLord, but it just doesn't matter. These horsemen dishing out so much additional damage means that Wham is going to be cleaned up here. And it looks like MarineLorD is going to get some much-needed breathing room.
He is going to take down so many longbows out there, and as he said, the damage output from the horsemen is not something to be underestimated, but also just the fact that they soak up so much arrow fire and always force those archers to retreat is massive, because MarineLorD didn't even lose a single longbowman of his, because the archers from Wham just had to focus down the horsemen, and suddenly, as much as the production building of MarineLorD was exposed, it is even more so exposed for Wham. It's completely defenseless, to say.
And he has this high ground to poke and prod from. Man, I'm still trying to I'm nerding out in my brain on whether I was right about the outpost network of castles. Because if you look to the east, there's this network of castles that keeps getting juiced occasionally. But now it will go off, and then it will switch on. So I'm not sure if buildings have an intermittent trigger, or if it is just, like, units. Because, like, there's a horseman running nearby, but technically it's not in range. I think it's maybe just the range indicators for the network of castles is inaccurate, and it is, in fact, just the horseman running nearby that triggers it. Anyway, let's focus on bigger things, because the Lombos are pushing in. They're going to force off the gold, and that's worrying. Look at Wam's numbers. This was perfectly timed. MLord. This timing is going to deny that gold tech up that Wam was looking for, because he has surplus gold, but his food is still lacking. He can move away for the moment, but now it means that you can't easily escalate your army, because MarineLorD can actually block out those reinforcements we were talking about with your aggressively positioned council hall.
Yeah, the thing is that Vam did the right thing. He applied pressure, he pinned MarineLorD inside his base, and then just tried to get to Castle Age and build up the Man-at-Arms numbers or Knight numbers. But the timing here for MarineLorD was perfect. He knew exactly what the critical mass was to counterattack this, and now he's denying all longbows from being added. Now, it looks like the King's Palace is going to be dropped at the back here for Vam, but that's not an ideal position by any means. Obviously, it's going to allow him to start pumping out units like crazy, but if you look at MarineLorD's resources, he's not behind at all.
And he didn't wall it off. Wam didn't block this. You can walk in. The horsemen can walk in. They can get vision. The Lombos can reach this. This is a disaster for Wam. This could deny him outright. Oh my goodness. He knows it as well. He has to back off. Horsemen moving in. Lombo's getting in range. And Wam has an incomplete King's Palace that will seem more like just a peasant's palace that will never come to be in fruition or get you any value in this game.
Oh, what a collapse there for Wam. And really, MarineLorD is not just aware that he can trade his archers off here. The most important thing is that he needs to delay that King's Palace as long as possible, because MarineLorD himself is coming up to Castle Age, and he's got some longbows as well up front denying that gold mine. So Vam is just unable to access resources at this point. The lumberjacks are being denied, the gold miners are being denied, and MarineLorD is already pulling up some towers as well to establish a forward position here.
Wow. I mean, this game looks kind of impossible for Wam now. I'm trying to see how he gets out of this. He's never completed this King's Palace. The trades are way too even. The tech up is almost done for MLord. You say he's a little way off, but I say almost done in the conjunction Wam is never completing his. There's just no way. There's going to be more Lombo coming. You can see they're amassing on the north side. They're about to expose this wood line as well. Wam really has ran out of places to hide. And, you can say Doubt Castle kind of equivalent with Doubt Palace, but that's not the detail that matters here. It's more like I call it a Doubt Wall. This wall is what mattered. This cost him everything. The Lombos might not have been able to reach the villages on the far side, but now look what you force your opponent to do. Wam has to commit, and that means MarineLorD's going to get freebies. And Wam's indecision to just complete this means he's probably going to lose the game, simply because he's not willing to sacrifice the arm to save the body.
Yeah, he has to trade this off now, but the problem is that the damage has been done. MarineLorD actually reaches Castle Age faster than his opponent. Vam's only glimpse of hope was that he gets to Castle Age a little faster, gets a slight advantage in technology, wipes this army out, and then suddenly launches a counterattack. But now, MarineLorD is up to Castle Age just as much as he is, and I'm fairly certain that MarineLorD is much more set up for this Castle Age pressure. We're seeing some Knights being added. The only good news for Vam really is that MarineLorD doesn't have a ton of production buildings that can pop out Men-at-Arms or Knights.
No, but worrying part is that Wam can't afford Knights himself, right, because of the gold situation. This outpost has denied his gold veins. We talked about this before. He can't easily reach these southern ones unless he expands out. MarineLorD is holding this area hostage with a small group of Lombos. Wam has finite economy, and it means that he can't actually match the quality that's about to ride into his base, because MarineLorD, although there might not be many stables, is able to keep non-stop producing Knights, and that is something Wam cannot do.
And he's also creeping up towards those farmers. That's the heart and soul of the food eco for Wam. And Wam is just suffering from so much idle time here. There's nowhere to go. He's running away from the farms. He had to run away from that wood line up north. And as you said, now you're going to have Lombos creeping up on the other wood line as well. Soon, Knights will hit the battlefield. And it is just getting worse and worse for Wam. It's just a downward spiral from now on.
There's nowhere to go. He's just running around in circles at this point. He feels lost. Wam, I don't think he's going to be in this much longer. I mean, he re-secures the farms, but he's being pressured on the wood lines. MarineLorD's moving in again with the Lombos, and yeah, that's enough. He says, I'm done. There's no way. MarineLorD is going to make it 2-0, and this is starting to look pretty dominant. Very quickly, already getting 2 points on the board and running circles around Wam twice. With all that in mind, we head into game 3 on Hill and Dale, and it looks like MLord still looking like he might not drop a game at all as he has the Civ advantage as Delhi up against the HRE. Let's get underway with this one as we move in.
Up north, we will have a MarineLorD playing as the Delhi Sultanate, playing in blue, and to the south of him, it is going to be Wam playing as the red Holy Roman Empire. Looking at the maps real quickly, we do have a bit of an unfavorable gold spawn for MarineLorD. He only has one small gold on top of his hill. His other small gold actually spawned in this Dale area. Whereas on the other side, for Wam, he's got all 3 of his gold mines at the back that could actually be helpful in case he's getting pressured early on. But he's got 2 forests up front over here, and his cliffs are actually pretty far away from his starting town center, so he has to walk a lot to be able to wall this off. In general, these hills are fairly big, so it's very difficult to protect them.
Yeah, and let's keep in mind that we're talking about you being up against the Delhi, who, when they want to wall, they don't even have to use villagers to do so, right? So they don't actually lose any early game eco. It's a very scary situation to find yourself in if you're an HRE player. There's another small detail in a long list of reasons why Delhi are just looking absolutely absurd, because although we haven't been seeing an absurd amount of it here in this tournament, you have to remember that there's been a lot more presence with early walling from these high-level players, even on open maps. So that's something you have to be mindful of, and I think we have already seen just how powerful it is when you essentially just box your own opponent in the tomb that is just waiting to be, sealed, shall we say, with that final wall going on in the center. But, we're speculating that might not even occur. It might be that Wam goes to something more aggressive. We said that you do tend to get baited into the feudal age aggression back and forth, and if he does some pretty sweet micro or he outplays in terms of countering his opponent, I could see a world in which an HRE player cruises through to a quick victory. It's just very difficult unless you maintain good vision and starve MarineLorD of his. And that's something I don't feel like I've seen done well out of Wam so far. I don't feel like he's counter-visioned. I don't think he's blocked any info from MarineLorD. It feels like every game, MarineLorD's got to see everything that Wam's going to do.
MarineLorD is coming in with an early Mosque over here, going for efficient production. Another sign that he just wants to go for a super aggressive feudal age here with the Delhi. It looks like he's going to have to pull his scout back because his gold miners are being harassed. And of course, while it takes some time to kill that villager, you will have to pull that villager back at some time. And as you see, a new villager arrives and this one is going to get pulled back. MarineLorD added a second scout, so he's going to have one to fight that scout off with, and the other one can still just keep scouting around. There's a second scout added as well by Wam, so both of them are operating on 2. But it looks like MarineLorD was a little more successful collecting sheep overall.
Yeah, and MarineLorD, it's a nice detail, but ultimately the bigger detail is the fact that he has 2 safe berry bushes, right? He's got the one right next to TC, and then I think this is probably the safest secondary berry bush I've ever seen a Delhi player have on this new patch. Right in the back corner, nowhere easily assailable for your opponent. And as we know, with the buffs to the berry bush gathering rate, like for the Delhi, it's just absolutely insane right now. It's better than going on sheep.
The perfect, actually not the perfect position of that Aachen Chapel for Wam, it was near perfect. It needed to be 1 tile closer to that town center though, because it's not gonna be able to affect the sheep gatherers, even if they move to the left of the town center. If it was just a tiny bit closer, it would be slightly better. Still, it's a great efficiency for that Aachen Chapel out there. He's going to affect the gold mine, the hunt, the berries, and the lumberjacks as well. If it was 1 tile closer to that town center, this would be the perfect Aachen Chapel.
Yeah, it's actually kind of weird because Wam could have easily moved the sheep across the west side, right? And he would have been optimizing already. That would have also prepped for the Aachen Chapel you're talking about. But more importantly, before that, this prelate would have taken less time walking back and forth. So kind of a weird oversight by Wam. I feel like Wam has played HRE a decent amount. He's seen HRE played at the highest level. He understands these small tidbits and how important it is. And HRE is fast becoming this type of civ as well that we talked with England last game about how the first 5 minutes perfecting is important. Or more or less it's already known. I think for the HRE, although the first 5 minutes hasn't been carved out in stone, it is incredibly important to min-max because this 40% buffer in your early game eco can make such a big difference and open a lot more options up to you in the 5-10 minute mark in terms of either going for an eco boom or actually being hyper aggressive with trip archery range drops. But those options can only open up if you perfect your first 5 minutes of play.
And it looks like Wam is the one that's planning to wall in his opponent over here, so bit of a surprise coming out. If there was any player where we expected him to try and wall in the opponent, that would have been MarineLorD. And what is he doing? Look at that. He's dropping all those foundations, trying to block those scouts from arriving. A villager is being pulled by MarineLorD to try and fight this off. He knows exactly that he needs to stop this one. Otherwise, he could be in trouble. But the opening is kept alive, and it looks like Wam is going to lose his scout here in the process.
Yep. Looks
Or
like
is he?
MarineLorD's going to lose
Nope.
one. Wham will move away, but that is the Villager having to abandon the effort here. Can we just talk about how terrible Villagers are at fighting? What was that weird kick? What was that moment where he stabbed and looked like he was going to fall over?
Oh, there's an opening on the right side. Like,
Oh.
the problem is that MarineLorD moved away his units from that choke point, so now Wam could actually start volleying this up. But there's an opening to the right side of this foundation, and the Villager hasn't volleyed in. You could see the blue Villager walking back through that opening. So
Yeah.
even with all these foundations set up, there's an opening here for MarineLorD to walk through.
Yeah, that's kind of problematic. It's kind of ridiculous how often people get tripped up by that edge. He can easily burn his way through these foundations. He's got enough time at this early point with just scouts alone. We'll force the return of Wham's scout. And it's a fairly even trade, but it's one where Wam has a slight edge. But notice that the scout is starting to burn through the wall, and he should be able to get through quick enough to actually assist. And that could be the difference that forces Wam away. But it's good that he's starting to apply this pressure. He understands that Delhi do have a very hard ramp up around Feudal. He doesn't want to allow it to be exploited. And just taking this center pass out of the equation makes it a lot more frustrating for MarineLorD to run across the map and hit his perfect time against HRE. And the HRE don't want to be pressured early. They want to be able to tech up quickly without any military presence in their base so they can quickly crack that castle age timing and secure those crucial relics.
Horsemen are coming out from both sides, actually, but this is not something that the HRE love to do, simply because they'll be up against efficient production. So, as you see, there is already one scholar garrisoned inside that stable, so MarineLorD will be able to outproduce his opponent quite rapidly with the horsemen. It looks like there's another villager being pulled in here to try and finish those walls. Same attempt as before, and MarineLorD is going to rest one villager there in that choke point to prevent that volleying from happening.
Yep, might sacrifice it, but he doesn't care. And it looks like he's holding the scouts and the horsemen. Going to bait the horseman and the scout to chase after MarineLorD's villager, but they can't do anything. He doesn't need to hold it there anymore. And he clubs the sheep as well. He's like, no, these don't go home with you. They belong to us now. And now he'll be able to complete those walls.
Slaughter.
Yep, and he's going to be able to deny any wall going up now. I think Wham's done with this effort. And the problem is that he kind of already invested pretty heavily into presence now. If you notice, he didn't just drop a stable, he also dropped an archery range. So he clearly has been baited into this feudal age that we were talking about being a very big risk factor of the HRE. They kind of just very reluctantly end up having to drag out their feudal timing when they really just desperately want to get up to castle.
I think he expected the Spearman to come in here. And that's the obvious, or that's the more meta selection of the Delhi Sultanate. Just go for Spearman aggression, anticipating your opponent to go for Horseman. But as I said, because there is no Spearman over here, this is basically a bait, making Wam start to invest into archers. But archers lack mobility, and archers will struggle so much against this Horseman. And MarineLorD already has the Horseman numbers advantage.
Yep, that means he has to run for the high hills. And this is the thing. I feel like a lot of these players, because they're feeling this matchup and because what they've seen out of Delhi for so long, they're almost just playing on like outdated info. A lot of Delhi players have started to switch on to the fact that spears aren't the solution. If you're talking about walling, just build archers instead. They're much better. And it looks like Wam is going to take this fight, despite the fact that he's outnumbered. Archer's trying to assist, but two injured horsemen are going to pick those apart. And the main battle is starting to go the way of Wam, but how much is he investing in this? And how much is he delaying his tech-up timing just to be present and able in these initial fights?
Notably, MarineLorD has placed a blacksmith as well quite early on, so he's slowly carving out a tiny bit of a military advantage here as well for himself when it comes to the upgrades, and that is not something to be overlooked either. Being able to outproduce your opponent in terms of horsemen and also have the better upgrades is going to secure quite a lot of ground for him, and you see the first scholar already being pulled to heal up the horsemen and soon move towards that sacred site.
Yeah, Sanctity is about to complete in just a few seconds. 20 seconds left on it. It's also the fact he's using this stealth forest. He baited him in. Wam was feeling confident, right? He looked confident because that fight looked so good. But by the time you arrive on MarineLorD's side of the map again, he's going to have the number advantage courtesy of that efficient production you brought up. It's just so damn effective. And he has surplus eco to be able to keep affording it at all times and matching Wam's pace. But the difference is now that he's able to move out with Sanctity research and secure the sacred sites, that is when your eco escalates. And that is the worrisome detail I was talking about. Your boom time as the HRE doesn't come until castle. And because you dragged out this feudal so long and got stuck in the mixer, all of a sudden, MarineLorD is going to exploit his timing, and you're going to be missing out on yours.
And the moment you start securing those sacred sites, things are going to start going downhill because you're going to have a massive advantage falling into the hands of MarineLorD. Big fight on the left side. The Scholar is kept alive, and he's moving towards the left. On the right side, the Scholar might actually get intercepted, but I think he's going to make it back home.
Yeah, he should be able to back away. And look at this. Wam, I mean, this is best case scenario from MarineLorD. He's got a smile on his face right now. He sees the first spearman arrive on the front. So he just got confirmation that he is definitely ahead because Wam has now invested in 3 different military units. And that is going to stretch him thin. Even the HRE, in this type of matchup, if Sacred Sites start to go the way of MarineLorD, it's very hard to even maintain your economy advantage because now you're split between 3 different unit types.
And the Sacred Site on the right side is also being capped, and we've talked about this before. The gold that you get upon capturing the Sacred Site is 66, which is basically the price of a Scholar being 75 if you make it on the Dome of Fate. So even if you cap the Sacred Site and you lose the Scholar doing that, it pretty much already paid for its investment, as it looks like that Scholar is going to get taken down before the Sacred Site on the left is capped, though. That's actually a big win for Wam.
Yeah, he just about denies it. He's stuck in there at the last second. The Horsemen are going to back away for the moment. And remember, that Sacred Site on the east, he's not going to be able to deny it. It will go through. There's that 66 tick you were talking about. Horseman is there to then punish him. But the central Sacred Site is now secure. MarineLorD is baiting Wam left and right with static units that can't quickly respond. And it buys time now that the archers arrive in the main battle. And the Horseman count is still in favor of MarineLorD. He cleans up the remnant spears, the few that are here. And now the movement through. He opens the gates to flood straight onto the archer line. And Wam is about to lose the entire army. And all of a sudden, the center of the map is under the influence of MarineLorD.
The only thing that MarineLorD was missing is something to respond to the spears with. The only reason why Wam was winning those fights is because of the presence of the spears. And the moment those couple of archers appear, suddenly MarineLorD's horsemen are no longer threatened by all those spears. And now, MarineLorD is dominating this game in terms of army 24-6. Looking at the resources for Wam, he's getting close to Castle Age, but now this horseman could actually start rampaging his eco because there's quite a lot of villagers on the berries that could be open for raiding, and of course now MarineLorD controlling the sacred sites, he could actually start piling up the gold he needs for Castle Age as well.
And that's the detail that matters, right? Like you mentioned, he's saving his Castle Age. And this is something MarineLorD's aware of. The only way the HRE can potentially win is if they try to castle up. And it means there's going to be a den in the military presence. And he noticed it in the last fight. And as a result, pounces upon weakness shown. Moves in, forces Wam off of the wood line straight away. Regnitz Cathedral is being constructed, but look how easy and trivial it's going to be for MarineLorD to shift past and make his way directly towards where the landmark is being constructed. Wam, for the second time in a row in this series, is going to be denied his tech up in the castle.
And if those torches are being thrown towards the cathedral, if you delete it, you're going to lose a certain portion of the resources, because if you end up deleting this building, after it was damaged, you will lose the portion of the resources invested that amounts for the percentage of HP damaged by the torches. So at this point, if this building is cancelled and MarineLorD threw a couple more torches, you would also lose like 200-300 food and gold on it.
And look at the gold, the food, they're both not there. And the reason he didn't deny it, as you mentioned, is because the arrow got fired straight away. Once again, pesky archers denying his ability to delete his own buildings. And the rush-in is going to be enough to decide it. Wam will tap out. MarineLorD very close to making this a clean sweep. Now 3 up.
Oh, this is an absolute pain over here for Wam. I mean, I understand this point. He tried to age up, he gets it stubbed, and then, because that damage taken on that Regnitz Cathedral, even after deleting it, he was down to 597 as the gold. He was just missing 3 gold. And of course, he's got no map presence, and MarineLorD is going to take all the sacred sites and pretty much catch up in Castle Age timing. Clinic so far by MarineLorD. In the first 2 games, I just felt like MarineLorD played meta and just outplayed his opponent, but this game, I think he also outsmarted his opponent because his approach was sort of that new line Delhi approach, and that was the perfect answer to that sort of slightly more old school meta HRE approach that we are seeing.
And he didn't switch over like a lot of players would. A lot of players would have went into the archery range sooner as Delhi, but an interesting detail about the way that MarineLorD played this is he actually holds on until he gets the confirmation that spears are in play. You notice how late the spears come through, and that's when the archers get pushed out. MarineLorD wants to force Wam to blink first, right? He wants him to show weakness. And the moment that Wam does show those spearmen, MarineLorD gets the full thumbs up that the castle age has been delayed. His opponent has gone for this triangle formation of 3 different unit types, and it is going to stretch him very thin. And the beautiful part is that then the follow-up fight, when MarineLorD sees that he actually outmasses his opponent, he understands that his opponent essentially has used these switches into archers, into spears, whatever, to try and stem the bleeding, but he has no intent of hanging around in feudal. And MarineLorD, being such an established and experienced player at Age of Empires 4 already, understands that that gives him a window to end the game now instead of fixating on his own castle, and does not hesitate to strike. And that is the detail that has been so important in this series. Every time MarineLorD, he times his move perfectly. There's no greed to it. even when it looks like it's being greedy, it's because it's been enabled, right? He min-maxes every opportunity to exploit his opponent and isn't afraid to end the game at exactly the right moment, where other players instead would be thinking about 5-10 minutes down the line and how they could win more easily then. MarineLorD goes all in when it matters most.
And with that, we're jumping into game number 4. MarineLorD up 3 games against Wam. He's going to be spawning on the right side as the French in blue, and to the left, we are going to have Wam playing as the red Delhi Sultanate. Must win for Wam over here. Even if he is knocked out of the tournament right now, he's going to have a chance to retry next weekend in the next qualifiers, but obviously he's so close. He's going to try his best here to somehow reverse sweep MarineLorD, but that's going to be an awfully difficult challenge out there.
Yeah, you can talk about the whole idea of like going forward and learning from this, and then next time I'll do better. But like Wam isn't looking that way. Wam is like, okay, this is where the buck drops. Like I want to be the best at this game, and although that is a process that takes time, it needs to start somewhere, and it really needs to start now. Like he needs to show that he can actually contest MLord, because outside of the first 5 minutes of that England mirror matchup, I haven't been convinced that like Wam is able to do. Sorry, no, that's unfair. His first 3-4 minutes of the French game at the start of the series, that was decent as well. But overall, like, being good at the first 5 minutes is a very small element of the wider game. It's a start, don't get me wrong. Like, if you argue, like, StarCraft is such a well-developed game that if you want to be good at the game, you have to master your first 5-10 minutes perfectly. Age of Empires will eventually get that stage as well. But when you're playing up against a high-level player, this whole idea of, like, having the perfect game doesn't work because your opponent is going to force you off of that perfect game. And really, when you're talking about the best players in the world, it's not about who played a perfect game. It's actually who made the least mistakes. And right now, MarineLorD is making next to none.
Right now, we got Wam with the berries. Berries behind his town center is definitely helpful here, making sure that he's not going to have that much pressure on him. Whereas on the other side, for MarineLorD, he's got a fairly open gold mine, so in case Wam is able to pressure that, that could cause problems for MarineLorD. So far, MarineLorD is just playing standard food, gold, not a single villager on wood, so it's just the one school of cavalry castle age or feudal age. And one thing that we haven't mentioned yet, I think, is that look at those forests around MarineLorD's base.
Yeah.
This could secure such a beautiful corner for him. Just a tiny bit of walling, and that will secure that corner, which has one gold mine and a hunt in it.
Yeah, this is actually really beneficial in a lot of ways. If you actually look at the central wood lines as well, it's natural defenses. So really what I'd love to see coming out of MarineLorD is a shift towards the southern side. That should be where he's focusing his efforts, because you can move towards these very easily pocketed off areas with the deer, with the wood lines, with a secondary gold line here. There's a lot of easily defendable areas that also gives you a staging point to contest the sacred site in the center. And it also will allow you to very naturally set up those outposts I was talking about that will be critical. So I think if Wam wants to get an edge up here, he's kind of been... He's starting like 5% behind the even mark, I feel like, with this generation, because it definitely helps MarineLorD buff that early aggression. But it's going to be critical that he gets these early units out into the center, establishes some sort of wall control or outpost control to deny this central mass from MarineLorD.
We already have one mosque up for Wam. He's going for efficient production as well. He's likely opening spears because he's going to have an answer to those knights out there. But as a result, I would expect MarineLorD to open with an Archer Age just upon hitting Feudal Age. He kind of needs to, because otherwise he's going to have trouble against all those spears.
Well, there's definitely plenty of wood to get for those archers. There's, I think you can afford a few of them at least. I mean, sometimes the high view generation really is very mean. And this definitely, like, the more I look at it, it feels like one of those games. I mean, Wam, he doesn't have to rely on gold that much. That doesn't hurt him too much. His secondary bushes are terrible, though. Look how far away they are. If you compare it to MarineLorD's, they're pretty clustered. They're easily defendable. In a lot of ways, it could be a little bit too elementary for MarineLorD to pull Wam left to right in his base. So I think it's even more important that Wam dictates control around the midsection of the map and never gets baited into these raids that I'm expecting MLord to dedicate himself to with the Knights.
Speaking of MarineLorD, he's planning to go professional scouts over here, already dropped the mill, and he is piling up some extra gold. So that's a sign that he wants to go professional scouts. And that is something that you could justify on this map, especially because it's not like your opponent is going to take their hunt immediately. So over time, you can potentially ferry in the deer from your opponents as well. Whereas with the Delhi, it's unlikely that you're going to be facing a ton of aggression, so you will have your window to bring in the hunt, and indeed, professional scouts is on the way for MarineLorD as we speak.
Yeah, and I don't remember the last time I actually saw a Delhi player rush pro scouts, even more so on the new patch. So I'm not expecting to see that researched anytime soon in the mill. I think the last time I maybe saw pro scouts rushed by a Delhi player would have been B about a month and a half ago, and that was on Hill and Dale. It's just a very rare choice. Even though you have one, you can get 1-2 scouts naturally. It's just not something you want to engage with. And I think you've been deterred from it even further, not just because of the nerfs to pro scouts, but because of the buffs to the berry bushes. Everything about Wam's economy is going to play around gathering from these berry bushes. And it means that you're very predictable. And as we said, you're very spread about where you can gather them. So MLord is definitely going to try to ramp up into a few knights, I expect, here very quickly.
There's a sneaky villager moving all the way to the left from MarineLorD, and this is very, very interesting. I'm not exactly sure where he's going, but it's possible he will try to sneak a tower behind that wood line, and I don't think that Vam would ever expect this one. Part of the equation here on high view is that it's very difficult to spot those 4 villagers or anything, any kind of 4 unit moving out, simply because it is just impossible to spot it in the stealth forest. Now, he's going to bump into not 1, but 2 wolves out there, making that villager much weaker. I think he wants to wall in the sacred site now that I think about it. He's moving to that side.
Yeah, he's outposting it. Like, the outpost is better, right? Because then you deny the walls going down. Everything that would wall here is squishy right now. You haven't got a man at arms that has armor and can stand there walling up. So it's a really cool kind of big brain play from MLord. He's thinking about 5 minutes down the line what Wam needs to achieve victory. He doesn't need to actually protect his sacred site close to him because it's unlikely Wam will play towards that. It's way too gambling. It's way too out of position. So now what MarineLorD has essentially done with this outpost is he's funneling all attention to the center of the map. And it means that also he has vision of this area. He'll see any flanking attack. He has a safe route in the back. It's essentially just giving himself staging points with these knights to cycle in and out of the economy lines of Wam and have next to no repercussion because Wam can't chase them.
Indeed, and that tower is going to deny the sacred site on the left. As you said, the one on the right is not something that's within reach for Vam, and technically MarineLorD could wall it off very easily in that corner. So really, this way, MarineLorD is able to focus all attention towards that sacred site in the middle, and he also has a couple of knights poking and probing around that gold mine, so he's charging every once in a while, seeing what the unit composition looks like for Vam. He has spotted the archers, spotted the spearman, and his response, it looks like it's just going to be 1 archer range. He's going to have to play defensive here, because he's not going to have the numbers to fight this one. Might even warrant a defensive tower around with archer range for him.
Yeah, I think actually, like, it's not as much about defensively here as it is the center, right? I think he understands fully that if he doesn't get a sacred site in this game, it snowballs for MarineLorD. Because you have to remember, you're not getting your full economical benefits. You're up against France. They produce villages quicker. They get tech research cheaper. Like, these things add up quickly. I think Wam is too aware of this. And also, look at this sneak in. MarineLorD, all too aware of the vision radiuses, is going to drop the outpost right next to the berry bush. And Wam has no clue this is being placed here. Oh, he spots it. He moves out. The spear's going to deny it.
I think he may have spotted that villager for a split second because the tower wasn't spotted, but there's no way he just randomly spent a couple of villager or a couple of spearmen out there. He probably has spotted that villager, and that is going to be a crucial move because if that tower goes up for MarineLorD, that would have been insanely painful for Wam.
And it looks like he will lose the villager as well. Just too slow at 1.12. Looks like MarineLorD hasn't actually got his hands on his wheelbarrow yet. So we'll actually lose out on that Villi. Outpost will be denied, and that is an important detail. And look what has happened in the center. Wam has walled off this sacred site, and so it begins. He might try to shift out towards the outpost on the west, but he will eventually get the bad news that that is an impossible cap, at least for the next few minutes. But 200 gold per minute passively isn't too bad. That's essentially 5 additional workers in your workforce, which evens up with what MarineLorD will have in the coming minutes, because over time, of course, these villager productions start to add up with the reduced time to produce for the France side.
Perfect timing there for MarineLorD on the left side. He's going to intercept that scholar moving to the left, and those scholars being lost at the beginning is definitely painful because they do cost 75 gold for you to replenish, which is quite a cost as long as you don't have the sacred sites. After that first sacred site capture, it's not so big, but obviously losing that scholar is going to delay that sacred site at the left side being contested, and now those knights will force Vam to defend, and you see he's gonna have to pursue with all those spears, which limits his opportunity to control the sacred site in the middle with those.
Oh, this is step 1, right? This is just one group of knights. I'm looking for the second, the third, the fourth, right? Because you know it's going to happen. MarineLorD will start to cycle them in small groups. But for the moment, the main battalion moving up in the center, and he's going to drop that outpost right next to the sacred site. That's what we're looking for here. And with a few knights, he can easily burn this down. And with the outpost in place, it will not be easy for Wam to sneak in and counterattack. In the meantime, Scholar is going to be sniped. Another 75 gold loss. And it's all for free because, like you said, he peeled him back. Those spears are all in the back of the base. Right now, Wam does have a bigger army, but if this outpost goes down, I think things get oddly skewed in favor of MLord around the sacred site.
100%. And the moment that army moves out, MarineLorD is going to have the window to come in with the knights, pick off a couple of villagers, and he's fully aware of that. He's going to spot that army coming through. Actually doesn't see it because of the stealth forest, just now realizing all of those forces are coming that way, and he might need to pull his villager away from that tower.
No, he just needs to pull him left to right. I think that's what he's looking to do. And actually engage with the knights onto the archers. We'll back away before the spears reach him, and it looks like he's not going to be able to buy enough time. He will have to back away. Outpost is going to be denied. Wam, just in the nick of time, will deny this outpost from going up. Another 100 wood wasted from MarineLorD.
MarineLorD also missing out on a villager kill on that gold mine because the knights started attacking the tower instead of the villager, and things are getting better and better with the gold piling up for Wam.
Yeah, he's slowly getting there, right? It's just passive for him. Wam doesn't have a single person working on gold, and another knight gets sniped in the meantime. MLord, this is the problem, right? We talked about how great he is at creating all these little pocket groups of knights, pulling left, right, and center. How do you pull him left, right, and center when you don't have anywhere to pull? You can see he's walled on the west side. He just started continuing construction on the east side, and then also the northeast side. So he's creating these funnel points to the east and to the west of this sacred site, and it means it's very hard for MLord to move in with these knights and force Wam's attention onto 10 different skirmishes when there's only one location you can go.
Exactly, this one knight is going to take down one villager, but at this point, that sacred site controlled right now by Wam is giving him way more than what that villager is worth. And I love the way that he's walling off the right side as well, though he's likely going to lose a villager here to a wolf unless that scout comes in to help. But by making those walls, he's going to limit the surface in which he could be attacked, and that way he's also limiting the amount of damage that MarineLorD can do.
And MLord is struggling to do damage because this is textiles. It has been researched, right? The cool thing actually about textiles is it doesn't actually take that long to research the default research for Delhi, and it's for free. So it's even better. You don't really miss out on much villager production, and figure out how many villagers it's saving because of these knights being spammed out. You won't see the same thing necessarily come out from MarineLorD because he's not expecting that pressure early on, but this is so invaluable when you're up against aggressive civs like the Mongols, like the French, and I see so often so many players neglect to get it, but Delhi especially have no great reason to pass it up.
The tower does go up though for MarineLorD, and at this point he just needs to neutralize that sacred site because with the tower being around, he would be able to pick off the next scholar coming in. Wam is gonna have to react to this one, but the tower does have arrow slits coming in, and there is 5 archers garrisoned inside as well.
And knights just trying to bait the attention of the spears. The spears are being picked off by the archers and the outpost, and if you lose those spears, you lose the entire battle. Wam, having to retreat, will turn his back and run.
Behind this one, he's piling up a tremendous amount of gold, and he's getting ready for Castle Age, but that's the only sacred site that he's controlling, and oftentimes, the Delhi relies so heavily on that sacred site gold income that if you lose them, suddenly their eco is gonna collapse, and when you get to Castle Age, you want to make men-at-arms, you want to make lancers, you want to make siege weapons, and all of those will cost you gold, so if you lose all of these sacred sites, suddenly, you're going to have trouble making a ton of gold-heavy units.
MLord will sacrifice the scout, and it looks like Wam will try to back away. Archer's starting to engage once again. They need this decap, and they know it. There's an outpost being built by Wam to try and hold on to this. Knights pushing forward. Spears are going to brace for the moment. The archers need to back away quicker. This archer count is starting to go in favor of MarineLorD slowly but surely. In fact, now he has the lead, and it means he can stand and fight against this. He might sacrifice the knights, but the important detail is that his archers will be left standing, while Wam's will be buried 6 feet under.
And the tower fire is also helping tremendously over here. Spearmen still in large numbers, but as you said, the archer numbers are being depleted here from Wam, and MarineLorD is contesting the sacred site, forcing Wam to take this fight. Wam is going to try and respond with his own towers, but he's the one that needs to control the sacred site. MarineLorD just needs to neutralize it, and all the spearmen are gone, which means that now the knights have an absolute fiesta on those archers here. In fact, the knights should loop around and try to hit those archers from the behind.
I was waiting to see if MarineLorD was going to do that. It's a little bit of a gamble with the lack of vision, but barely any spears here. You don't have to care anymore. He's going to move in knights who actually clap down the hardened spears one by one. Although an outpost was constructed in the end, the second one might be complete. The important detail is this sacred site is now no longer under your control, and that means your passive gold is gone.
It is gone indeed. Wam tried to run into that sacred site to try and just stop that neutralization process, but ultimately he's just going to end up losing even more archers. MarineLorD is going to lose a large number of units over here as well to the tower fire, but in the end he has to be happy with this because now his opponent is without that sacred site gold income, and if you look at the resource banks, Vam is leading, but he's not
is.
going to have any kind of gold income unless he starts mining gold. And that's not something that the Delhi wants to do here. And of course, with the French having 7 more villagers, now the eco advantage is on the side of MarineLorD.
And MarineLorD, once again, he's just giving the rope over to Wam, right? He's saying, I know what you're doing. I know what you want to do. I know you're going to start that tech up. And the timing again, not again.
No,
not 3
again.
times in a row. It can't happen. He knows. He moves straight in and spots it out. Pushing them back, and as soon as he fires at the House alone, it's probably got to be denied. This is so frustrating. Wham! 3 games in a row is going to be forced to give up on the tech-up dream. And this is not a dream. This is a nightmare.
Oh, that's unbelievable. 3 times in a row has he had his Castlage denied. He actually cancelled a lot faster than before, and now he's rebuilding it over there. But now the Knights are in, and Stone Miners have already been taken down. Villagers at the back are just open for killing, and at this point MarineLorD himself is going into Castlage with the Guildhall, so he bought himself enough time to just master resources, and in fact a couple of villagers will probably get killed here with the archers before the Castlage finishes.
There's enough there. You can pick them off with 1 burst each, so he gets 3 of them, misses out on the 4th, will back away, tech up complete, but the difference between these 2 players is now negligible. About 20 seconds between it as MarineLorD is almost done with his own tech up, and it will be that Guildhall. However, he needs to find more pressure in the coming minutes, because now that the House of Learning has been complete, Homeblades will be queued up very soon, although for the moment, Wam seems to not want to research anything. And I feel like I see this way too often from Delhi players. It's almost like they forget that everything in here is free, and they should be clicking them instantly.
Wam tried to sneak another Scholar out to capture the Sacred Site in the middle, but that did not end up well. He was picked off, and now it looks like we're seeing just Cantled Saddles coming in immediately for MarineLorD on the stable, popping out Knights from free. He actually aged up to the Guildhall, so there's going to be no Royal Bloodlines for him, but still, of course, as you said, with the own blades, those Lancers will be slightly better, but of course, French having that extra attack after charge will make things a little more even.
It's also, you need 5 minutes. You need 5 minutes to get Homeblades ready. Your stable production, like one of them got denied, right? So you only have a single stable pushing out Lancers. And your opponent already has a head start. He's already been pushing Knights. Wallalow on the backside is at least going to protect the gathering of the Relics of the Scholar. But you're going to need time for this to pay off. Everything about what Wam has now done requires time. What MarineLorD has done has already staged him for a push. You can see he's got a decent, healthy amount of archers, a decent amount of knights, and he might just look to push in and exploit Wam when he's still weak.
And that's exactly what he needs to do. Wam's got a bunch of archers that are just sort of irrelevant for this battle here. Against the Knights, those archers won't be able to accomplish anything, and if you look at the army numbers for Wam right now, it's at 22, out of which I see at least 15 archers. There's just nothing that stops those Knights, and those gold miners are wide open. You deny the gold mine, you deny all the power units, the Lancers, the men-at-arms. So you could just keep up the pressure on that gold mine by MarineLorD and just force your opponent to play without those gold-heavy units like the Lancers.
And MLord, he needs this decisive victory. You can see he's stacking up a lot more Knights. 5 ready to go. Arbitrary is now coming out, moving them to the front. He's got about 2-3 minutes to make this work, because at that point, then the tech ups come out. Home Blades, 3 minutes away from being done. You look at the vet status upgrade, 3 minutes away from being done. If you allow Wam to cruise through, that's when he bounces back hard, and MarineLorD's game gets very scary. But for the next 2 to 3 minutes, Wam is playing a horror game, not an RTS.
And the Knights are coming in. The Scholars were too busy collecting relics, so that's why they're not boosting the research even more. And that's part of the reason why Owned Blades and the Veterancy upgrades take so much time. And I feel like that's not the time that Wam had here. And MarineLorD is just gonna push up, and now he's got enough to try and burn that tower down, and with that, expose that gold mine for Wam.
So many Knights here as well. Barely any Lancers, still not with the Home Blades upgrade. Archers are going to back off for the moment, but remember they have the tech up over their counterpart in Wam's army. They'll give the space, but only for the moment. The villagers will back away, but now you are not gathering on the gold. You are relying wholly on passive gold. And I think, yeah, only about to be 2 relics banked, so not looking that great for the moment. Outpost going to be burned. Shift in. Sees the wood line. MarineLorD now stacking up. Moving into it as he gets vision. Turns around. Splits for multiple forces. Will engage to hold the Lancers back. Archers will start to pick apart their counterpart that still is not teched up. In fact, the Archer upgrade is still 2 minutes out. The Wallalow to try and peel him back, but it barely affects the battle at all. It buys you a little bit of time, but not much is left for you to run and hide behind here. As Wam is going to be exposed on the front, the Lancer army is going to fall quickly. He's even back to producing spears that do not last long at all. And MarineLorD, he's hitting the timing perfectly here. I feel like Wam, he's got so many idle villagers and such a little army, you have to question what can he do next.
I don't think he can do anything. I think the best thing at this point he can do is just tap out. There's just no way he's holding off these Lancers. He's nowhere close to being able to fight them. Another Volo is attempted, but unless a miracle happens, Wam isn't going to be able to hold this one.
Look at his idle village. Look what he's gathering. Wam has 5 people getting stoned. That's all he's getting in his economy right now. He's completely stunted and starved. The butchery will continue. The archers have been cornered, and Wam looks helpless in the face of the Lord of Marines himself. It is going to be a clean wipe. MarineLorD will proceed through, qualify for N4C without dropping a single game here.
Absolutely stellar performance over here from MarineLorD, and make no mistake, Wam is a great player. He just took down. I mean, Wam didn't drop a single game up until now. He took down some big names on his way over here. He took down I Am Magic, for example, in the previous round, and MarineLorD just made him look like as if he was a beginner. Absolutely stellar performance from MarineLorD. And Wam didn't have any bad moves. He played very standard meta, but MarineLorD just outplayed him by a massive margin, especially game number 3 hurts, where it wasn't just the execution, it was also the strategy. But game number 1, 2, and 4, just massive scale gap, I feel like, between these two players.
Yeah, it felt trivial. Honestly, like, no offense to Wam. It's not even offense to Wam when I say a statement before anyone thinks it is. He looked like a novice. And that isn't him being bad. That's just how good MarineLorD was. Like, he made this look trivial. Every second, like, it's the spidey senses, right? It's that tingling feeling. You get it. When you play this many games, MarineLorD has watched enough real. He's played enough of these matchups. He understood the timing in so many of these matches as to exactly when Wam would be teching up. And we talk about this whole concept of whenever you tech up, there's a vulnerability point. But the amazing part through this series is he exploits that vulnerability point to the maximum because he catches you as you're doing the tech op. Not once, not twice, but 3 of the 4 games. That is insane. This guy is on top of the game for a good reason, and he proved exactly why here in this series. An absolute masterclass from MarineLorD as he heads through without dropping a single game across both days of the N4C qualifier, and that means that he is looking like a hot contender moving forward to that main event where he will join up with Viper, the Muslim, and of course Beastie, all so far confirmed for the main event. But guys, this is only the 2nd series. I know it was very quick. That's a comment I hear too often in my life. But we aren't done. We've got 1 more series for you. That's right. What a day. I was hoping we were going to get 21 games of Age of Empires, but maybe we can at least add 7 more in, as the final series could be very close, as it's going to be Vortex versus Mr.